them. Look at there's 3 of them all together.
In 1997, thousands of eyewitnesses watched in awe as a boomerang-shaped formation of lights cruised slowly and silently over the city of Phoenix.
They're lined up in a pattern.
Witnesses first thought these were separate lights flying in formation, but quickly realized the lights were all part of a single gigantic something. Military officials were asked about the Phoenix lights, but said they hadn't seen anything. Months later, they explained that a National Guard unit had been training with flares near the city. Flares over Phoenix look like this, not like this. The public, in general, didn't buy it. 8 years earlier, the airspace over Belgium was repeatedly violated by huge, unidentified black triangles. 10,000 witnesses saw them. Several were photographed. The Belgian Air Force dispatched F-16s to intercept and destroy the unknown intruders, but the triangles performed maneuvers that seemed virtually impossible.
On several occasions, they launched the top-of-the-line military aircraft against these things, and they were left standing. They were left in the dust. 1 minute these things are overhead, and the next minute they're on the horizon.
Dr. Colm Kelleher is a research scientist who spent several years with the National Institute for Discovery Science, or NIDS, a private Las Vegas science organization. A 4-year NIDS study of the mystery triangles has found that these craft have been seen for decades all over the world. In the early 80s, there were hundreds of nighttime sightings in rural New York. Belgium was inundated in the late 80s, but more recently, the mystery triangles have really come out of the closet and have been seen in every state, including Nevada, flying low and slow over cities.
These things are huge. These things are football field size. Sometimes they're stealthy, but a lot of the times they're flying with extremely bright lights. They're always silent.
NIDS now has a database of more than 1,000 black triangle reports, 17 of them from Nevada. The witnesses often say the craft seem to float like a blimp or airship, but they're also capable of aeronautical magic.
They were able to drop altitude in terms of 10, 20,000 feet in a matter of seconds. They were able to go from a hovering position to several thousand miles an hour, and this was caught on radar.
Then it was heading straight north.
Las Vegas journalist Caitlin White was in the backyard of her southeast Las Vegas home last year where she saw a dark behemoth fly over. She drew this picture.
It was triangular shaped, and there were rectangular reflectors. There was no interior light coming out of it at all. And by the time it got out of sight, I bet it was 5 to 8 minutes. It was really slow, and I couldn't figure out how it was staying in the air.
White called the police, who connected her to Nellis Air Force Base, which is the direction the triangle seemed headed.
The man said, I don't want you to talk about this anymore. You're not going to talk about this anymore, and you're going to forget it. And once again, I said, look, Betty, I'm not drinking. I'm not on drugs. Something is headed for your base. And then he got really terse, and he said, ma'am, I'm going to tell you one more time, and this is the last time I'm going to tell you. You will forget what you saw, and you won't tell anybody. And at that point, I was freaked. I didn't know what to do.
The frequent proximity of triangle sightings to Air Force bases led NIDS to conclude 2 years ago that the craft must be part of a secret military project. But in the 2 years since, the triangles have become so prevalent over big cities and interstate highways that the theory doesn't fit anymore.
Why would unacknowledged aircraft be flying at 500 to 1,000 feet over populated areas? If you look at the B-2 and the F-117, prior to their being acknowledged, there was absolutely no sense of them flying over populated areas.
So just what might the triangles be up to? More on that in our next report. In April of 2003, something large, dark, and silent glided over southeastern Las Vegas, headed in the direction of Nellis Air Force Base.
And it had no sound. And it was so slow. Nothing stays in the air like that.
Caitlin White said the huge craft was shaped like a boomerang or triangle. The drawing she made is similar to others from eyewitnesses all over the country and in other parts of the world. Large, black, floating triangles, often seen in the vicinity of military bases. When White called Nellis to warn the base that something big was coming its way, she didn't exactly get a thank you.
The man said, I don't want you to talk about this anymore. You're not going to talk about this anymore, and you're going to forget it.
Did Caitlin White get a glimpse of a secret military aircraft? Reports of giant flying triangles have been around for decades. This object was seen over Russia in the 70s, this one over Belgium in the 80s, and this one over Arizona in the 90s.
They're lined up in a pattern, man. There's geometry behind this.
Whatever this was, gliding over Phoenix was first seen the same night flying over Henderson, Nevada, headed east.
all over the U.S., East Coast, West Coast. We have quite a few from Nevada itself.
Research scientist Dr. Colum Kelleher spent 4 years collecting and analyzing reports of flying triangles as part of a study for the Las Vegas-based National Institute for Discovery Science. The NIDS files contain more than 1,000 black triangle reports, including 17 from Nevada. The triangles have been seen in rural areas of the state, but also flying over the Las Vegas Strip. Not surprisingly, there have been sightings near classified military bases, including the Tonopah Test Range and, of course, Area 51. Chuck Clark got a nighttime glimpse of something big and black sitting on a runway at Groom Lake.
It appeared to be at least twice the size of a 747.
But what technology allows something so big to glide so low and slow with no apparent propulsion system? Some speculate the military may have a modern version of an old technology. Airships, a souped-up blimp capable of carrying large deployments of troops or tanks to remote locations. If the Pentagon doesn't yet have airships, it certainly wants them. At least 3 contracts have been awarded for the development of big airships. Another potential use of an airship platform is one the military wouldn't want to admit: surveillance of the American public in this age of terrorism.
The speculation that we have heard is maybe these things are actually to do with Homeland Security, and there's an intense surveillance program that is escalating all the time, particularly in the post-9/11 era.
Like an aerial vacuum cleaner, a high-tech airship could suck up every fax, phone call, and email as it passes over. Kelleher's database shows that in the past 2 years, sightings of giant triangles over major cities have skyrocketed. The fact that the craft fly so openly over cities suggests whoever's flying them isn't worried about their existence being known, which is much different from how other previously secret aircraft were tested and deployed. Whatever they are, the black triangles have piqued public curiosity. When NIDS put its study online, it was swamped with inquiries, most from the aerospace industry.
Close to 100,000 people downloading this report in a very short time. So there's a tremendous amount of interest in this topic, and the speculation that we have is the interest lies in the fact that this is a gray area. Are these aircraft ours, or are they somebody else's?
But if not ours, whose?